Hey there, my name's Chris Winter, and in this video I'm going to do an in-depth head-to-head comparison between the old Nikon D3300 and also the brand new Nikon D3400. Now, if you haven't done it yet, definitely make sure to subscribe, as I'm actually going to be giving away a Nikon D3400 or a Canon T6 to a subscriber. So you hit that subscribe button now to enter. And guys, also definitely make sure to check out my brand new list, the top 5 must-have Nikon lenses. Now, I go into quite a lot of detail explaining which ones would be good for you and why, and we've also got a couple of good budget Nikon lenses there as well. So if you do want to check out that list, I'll put a link in the description box below under this video and you can take a look. But anyway, let's compare these Nikon DSLRs. So let's start off this comparison by taking a look at the build quality and features of both of these Nikon DSLRs. Now, the first thing that you're going to notice with both of these cameras is that from afar, they're really similar. The D3400 inherited the D3300 small size and form factor, and in a way I'm really happy that they didn't change the design. Having a small body and a small kit lens as well really is something that I like, especially if you're going to be traveling or taking photos all day long. Interestingly enough, the newer D3400 is actually even lighter than the older version. Is it enough to notice? Well, probably not, but I'm definitely not complaining about it being a little bit lighter. The D3400 comes in at 395 grams, compared to 460 grams of the older D3300. So if you are looking for a lighter package for, say, travel photography, the D3400 will definitely be the way to go. By the way guys, let me know in the comments below if you could win the Canon T6 or the Nikon D3400, which one would it be and why, and I'll take a look at your comments. So I quickly want to talk about the LCD screens on both of these cameras, and as you could probably imagine, not a lot has changed. So both cameras still have very good quality screens, which come in at 921,600 dots, and they're actually very impressive in bright daylight. I actually recently tested out the Canon T6 and compared it to the D3400, and actually found that the D3400 had a much better screen. Now, one thing that I am a little bit frustrated that Nikon didn't bring into the D3400 is a touchscreen. Especially as a beginner's camera, it's a real pity that they didn't include it, as I would have liked to have seen it in the D3400, and I think it's a reasonable expectation that it should have been brought into this camera. I also would have liked to have seen a swiveling articulating screen as well, as this is something that I find Canon cameras at this price range are doing really quite well. But overall, the LCD screens on both of these cameras are really quite good, and they should work well in pretty much all conditions. Oh, and guys, definitely make sure to check out that top 5 must-have Nikon lenses list. I think you'd be pretty surprised at what comes in at number 1. If you do want to check it out, the link will be under this video in the description box. But anyway, let's get back to this review. So one thing I really wanted to talk about with these two cameras is battery life, because it's actually a pretty big deal. So one thing that's always been a bit of a disappointment to me is the low battery life of budget cameras. I'm sure you've experienced this. For example, the D3300 can only take about 700 shots before it's battery depleted. But everything's changed on the D3400. I was able to get around about 1100 to 1200 shots before the battery died. Not only that, even video recording, which is something that normally kills battery life, was increased significantly as well. Sure, you can always bring more batteries and they're not super expensive these days, but the fact that you can shoot pretty much a full day of shooting with the Nikon D3400 is a big bonus to me, and definitely something that you should take into consideration. Now let's talk about video, and both of these cameras performed pretty well, especially for a budget camera. They both shoot a pretty impressive 1080p, 60 frames per second, which means you can get some relatively nice slow motion. Now sure, they're not shooting 4K, but for most people, including me, 1080p is more than enough. Now one thing that I did want to note is that on the old Nikon D3300, on the side here we have a microphone jack, and this allows you to plug in an external microphone to get better quality sound. Now for some reason, someone at Nikon decided to remove it on the D3400, and in a way I can kind of understand this, but in a way it's also really disappointing. Look, for most people who buy these cameras, they're never going to plug in an external mic anyway, but if you do know that you like to do cinematography, take videos, and you want to get better quality sound, the D3300 will still be the better bet for you. So coming back to the features side of both of these cameras, one of the big new inclusions in the D3400 is its wireless technology. So Nikon called this SnapBridge, and it essentially allows you to wirelessly transfer your photos from your D3400 to your phone. So let's say you take a really nice photo with your D3400 and you want to share them on places like Facebook or Instagram. It's a whole lot easier to do that now on the D3400. For me, this is probably one of the best new features, especially for younger users who are used to sharing their photos online. So it's definitely a good inclusion with the D3400. So both the D3400 and the older D3300 can shoot at around about 5 frames per second, which just for example sounds a little bit like this. For most people, that's going to be more than enough, especially if you're starting out and you don't want to spend more money on an expensive camera. And it's actually pretty good in comparison to some of the competition. For example, this Canon T6 right here, which is a similar price, can only shoot at 3 frames per second. Autofocus speed hasn't really changed and they're pretty respectable in most conditions and should be good enough for some sports and wildlife. So overall, both of these cameras are very good at the entry level. Now, is it worth getting the D3400 over the D3300? Well, unless you're only shooting video, to me it is. The fact that you can now wirelessly transfer your photos is a lovely touch and should mean you'll be sharing more photos with more people. Now, add on the huge battery life and also the fact that this is a lighter camera, to me, the D3400 is probably the best beginner camera you can buy on the market today. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't done it yet to go into the draw to win a D3400 or a Canon T6. And also guys, definitely make sure to check out my top 5 must-have Nikon lenses. That link will be in the description box below under this video. It's worth taking a look at. Hope you have a fantastic day. Hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time. Bye.